Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Torah, the edition of Parashat Balak. In this week's Parashat we read of some of the greatest blessings that the Jewish people ever received, and by none other than their greatest enemy, Bilam. You see, although Bilam had intended to curse the Jewish people, God had transformed his curses into blessings. However, today I don't wish to dwell upon the blessings that Bilam invoked upon the Jewish people, but rather upon the one blessing which he invoked upon himself. Bilam says concerning himself, Tamut nafshi mot yisharim, vihi achriti kamohu. May I die the death of the righteous, and may my end be like the end of the righteous. You see, Bilam wanted to die a holy death. He wanted to die the death of a Jew. The Or HaChaim, one of the famous commentators on the Torah, says that this is the difference between Bilam approach and the approach of a Jew. Bilam is interested, says the Or HaChaim, in living a life of debauchery, a life of hatred, a life of total unpleasantness, no matter which way you look at it. However, he wants to die righteously. The Jewish attitude, in contrast to this, is that a Jew wants to live a holy life. He wants to be a good person. And he pays far less attention to the manner of his death. It's interesting when you contrast the Muslim approach, or the fanatical Muslim approach, with the Jewish approach. Muslims are interested in dying for their God. The Muslims proudly say that the reason why they believe they're going to win in this battle is because they love death far more than we love life. Well, it's certainly true that they love death. I don't think they're going to find the Jews do not love life. You know, there's a notion in Judaism of Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem is normally translated as martyrdom, but literally it means the sanctification of God's name. But is this sanctification of God's name associated with death? Let's look into what Maimonides says. When discussing Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of God's name, Maimonides says that it's incumbent upon Kol Beis Yisrael, the entire house of Israel, to sanctify God. He then goes on to say that if a non-Jewish person comes to a Jew and says, transgress this or that mitzvah, or I will kill you, it is incumbent upon the Jewish person to transgress the mitzvah rather than to be killed. In other words, the Rambam's definition of Kiddush Hashem, of sanctification of the name of God, is not to die for God, but rather it is to live for God. When presented with the opportunity of either transgressing a mitzvah or dying, the Jews should choose to transgress a mitzvah. There are indeed exceptions to the rule, as the Rambam continues to explain. If someone comes and says to you, kill another person or I'll kill you, bow down to this idol or I'll kill you, rape a woman or I'll kill you, under such circumstances, the Jew has to give his life. However, the reason why the Jew must give his life in those circumstances is not because he desires to die. It's rather because he cannot live. He cannot live with the blood of another person on his hands. He cannot live having raped or committed some other horrendous sexual crime. He cannot live having acknowledged an idol. So it's not that we are glorifying death, It's rather that there are certain circumstances in which we simply cannot live. The Jewish attitude is essentially an affirmation of life. Bilam may very well say he wants to live the life of debauchery, but die the death of a righteous. But that is in total contrast to the Jewish view. The Jew wants to live well, live a righteous life. And if death comes, well, death comes. In the concentration camps, in the hands of Nazi murderers, this notion was exemplified by Jews. There are many stories, true stories, of Jews being lined up for death and then recognizing that it was Shabbos and the Germans were in no rush to kill them. Unfortunately, the Germans enjoyed torturing the Jews. The Jews said, look, it's Shabbos, we still have some time left, let's make Kiddush, let's sing the Shabbos songs. Wine was smuggled into them, and standing in the pits which were to turn into their graves, they made Kiddush, they sang Shalom Aleichem, they wished each other good Shabbos. Similar things occurred on Simchas Torah. The Nazis always chose Jewish holidays, special occasions, in which to murder Jews so that they could demonstrate that the Jewish God could not protect them. So the Jews on Simchas Torah would say, look, we're going to die soon, but right now we're still alive. Let's sing a song. Let's go for a tencel. Let's dance a little. And in front of the Nazi murderers, they would sing songs. They would dance and only die in a hail of bullets. They were, however, not attempting to make a statement about death. Rather, they were going to live their lives as Jews until the very last moment. Most telling is a similar episode occurred on Purim. So the Rav, the rabbi, says to those around him, you know, today is Purim. We're going to die soon. Lo mitrinken a bissel l'chaim. Let's say a little l'chaim. So they took whatever beverage which is available to them, and they wished each other l'chaim, to life. They were going to live life as long as they possibly could. This is the Jewish attitude. We love life. We love living good lives. Should death come, we'll contend with that too. But for us, it's all about life.